What's up, guys? Ethan Rowe here. Today, or tonight, if you will, depending on the hour you watch this. It's tonight for me, but might be today because I'm going to put this video up tomorrow for me. So, depending on what time you're watching this. We're going to talk about my favorite topic, and that is horror movies. Now, I had to make sure I said that right because a lot of people at work tonight 4 times thought I said horror movies, and that is a completely different topic. So I had to make sure I said that correctly because my country accent prevents me from saying things the proper way sometimes. So we had to get that out of the way. But yeah, we're going to talk about horror movies and that god-awful 3 from Hell trailer. Going to get that out of the way real quick. But stay tuned. All right, let's talk about this. First, we're going to talk about the 3 from Hell trailer. For those who do not know what that is, probably most of you might know. Only the people in the horror community might know, but for those who are watching that do not know, 3 from Hell is a Rob Zombie movie. It is a sequel to The Devil's Rejects. Some of you might have heard of it or seen it, and some of you might have not. So, it's been a long time since I've seen The Devil's Rejects. Not really, was never a fan of it. I've only seen it once and didn't care for it, so I don't really remember what happens. Really, I just know supposedly everyone died, so I don't know how they're making a sequel to that. So, well, what do I think of that trailer? Oh Lord, I thought it was awful, and I posted on Facebook on some horror groups and on my personal Facebook account, but mainly on the horror groups. I've received some mixed opinions on it, on my thoughts and opinion on the trailer. You know, on one side you have people defending the trailer and pretty much just defending the movie and Devil's Rejects. Of course, I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone is entitled to their opinion, just like I am entitled to my opinion. And I'm not going to bash somebody for thinking differently than I am. But, you know, just some of the comments I got was just like, it sounded just a little bit hateful, and I'm just like, oh my God. Of course, it doesn't bother me, but it's just like, I didn't know. Of course, I know a lot of people like Devil's Rejects, but it's like, whew, goodness gracious. And on the other side, you have people thinking what I thought about the trailer. And what I think about the trailer, it was atrocious. It was awful. And I know a teaser trailer is only supposed to show, like, not everything, but just enough to, like, you know, just get you going, get you pumped, and whatnot. But this was, I'll give it kudos. It was different. It was very different. But it was pretty much a montage of Rob Zombie's past movies, like A House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and now 3 from Hell. And it only showed like 2 or 3 quick snapshots of the movie, and Sherry Moon Zombie's character, I think her name's Baby, and it's like, kill them all. And I was just like, oh my God, get her out of the movie, please. Now, don't get me wrong, Sherry Moon Zombie did all right in the remake of Halloween. I thought she was, you know, exceptional. But it's just like, do you have to cast her in every single movie, Rob? Like, for real? She's not really that good of an actress. That's just my opinion, though. But, I mean, it barely even showed anything, and like, I don't even know what's what's going to happen. It didn't even show a plot. It didn't even show where it's going to be. Shit, I don't know. It's everything's just left unanswered. I mean, goodness gracious, what to say about it? I don't really have anything to say about it, really, other than the fact that it was awful. And I might get hate for that as well, for thinking that it's awful, but I don't really care. But I don't like Rob Zombie's movies. That's just me. I like the first remake of Halloween, but that was it. I checked out House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. Didn't watch 31. Halloween 2 was awful, that he did. It's god awful. And I think he's done some others, but I'm not really for sure. But there's always one, what's the word? Trope in all his movies. They're all white trash, hick movies. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not trying to like judge white trash people or anything like that, but in a Rob Zombie movie, you know what you're going to get every single time, and that's pretty much what he does. I mean, yeah, his music is great, but shoot. And plus, he has a really good eye for cinematography. I'll give him that. Like, even in Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, especially in Halloween 2, I mean, there are some great shots in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. A lot of great shots. It's just, he cannot tell a story properly. I mean, I'm just starting out. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like I could write a better story than he could. I mean, he doesn't follow through, and he just wants shock factor. And how can I make this scene so nasty and so bloody and so gory? And that doesn't appeal to a lot of people. I know some people like it, and more power to you if you do like it, but that's just not me. I like suspense. I like the slow burn. I like, take Halloween 1978 for example. That suspense, slow burn, lack of blood. Now I know in modern day, you have to show a little bit of violence just to attract people in. But take The Conjuring, if you will. The Conjuring is probably one of the best horror movies probably in the past 10-15 years, really. And there has been a lot of great horror movies that came out within that time period, but it's just Rob Zombie doesn't know how to tell a story. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it at that. That's enough bashing on Rob Zombie. I've went on way too long about that, and I'm sorry. But transitioning into what I really wanted to talk about, I just had to get that off my chest because of pretty much the backlash that I posted about my trailer thoughts from 3 from Hell. But now that that's out of the way, we can have some fun. Alright. My favorite genre of movies is horror. Hands down. I've always loved horror movies. If it still sounds like I'm saying horror movies, like horror movies, I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm country and I don't care. But anyways, horror movies have always been my favorite, like I said. There's just something about horror movies that I've always loved growing up. And I honestly think it was the very first Halloween that really got me into scary movies, really. And from then on out, I've always wanted to watch the next scary movie. Like, what can scare me? Like, shitless. So, we can talk about real quick, like what makes a good horror movie. And then we'll get into pretty much my favorites. Like overall, I don't really have a list. I should make a list. That could be another video, like ranking my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. That'd be a good video idea for down the road, maybe within the upcoming weeks. But after we talk about this, we'll get into my favorites. But what makes a good horror movie, in my opinion, is a good story, suspense, really good suspense, and payoff. You have to have a good story to begin with. You have to have something interesting. Say, for instance, paranormal. If you want to go the paranormal route, you have to have lore there. And what I mean by that is history. You have to provide some type of history or something, maybe just a little something to keep it interesting. And the suspense. I almost forgot what I was trying to say there. Suspense. You have to keep your audience on edge throughout the whole movie, really. Halloween, for example. I know I keep going back to that, but that honestly my favorite horror movie of all time. No judgments. But just look at what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill did. They built that story only for suspense. They didn't have a big budget, so they really had to rely on story and just keep that suspense building and building and building until like the final 15 minutes, and then you get that payoff, which leads into my next point. And but before we get into that next point, I'll make another example. Is The Conjuring. The Conjuring was really about that slow burn and just building that suspense and just pretty much scariness to the whole movie. And just when you think something is going to go down in that movie, nothing happens, and you're just like, come on. And it just keeps happening over and over and over again. But also during that journey, you're just getting little snippets of scary shit to keep you going. And it's just that slow build. I honestly think James Wan is, this is just my opinion, James Wan is honestly probably the John Carpenter of today. That's just my opinion. I really like James Wan. If you don't know who James Wan is, he did Saw, the very first Saw. Did Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring. He also did Aquaman. I still haven't checked that out yet, but I've heard it's pretty good, even though it's not horror. But you know, James Wan's a very good horror director, and that's just my opinion. I think he's just the John Carpenter of today. He has a really good career ahead of him. He already has several solid movies under his belt. But anyways, now to the payoff. You have to have a really good payoff in a horror movie. And I know there's a lot of horror movies that don't really have a really good payoff, because you build and build and build, and if that payoff is not up to par with that journey, the movie's just going to fall flat completely. Because there's a lot of them. Shoot, I really can't think of one right now. The Bye Bye Man. Alright, that movie was shit, but I've only watched that once, but I do remember, I mean, it did kind of have an interesting aspect to the movie and the way it tried to build that story, but I just remember just that whole payoff. I was just like, oh my God, did I really just sit through 90 minutes for nothing? And there's a lot of movies that are like that. A lot of horror movies that are like that. Most horror movies suck. Just like John Carpenter said, most horror movies suck. Fewer are alright, even fewer than that are good, and then even fewer than that are great. Because horror movies, I don't know, it's like an art in a way. Because a horror movie, it should scare you, it should scare you, and it should scare you. Quote from John Carpenter again. But I mean, it's true. I mean, if you're going to make a horror movie, you have to scare your audience. That is the main goal. And right behind that, you just have to have a good story, build that suspense, and make sure that payoff is great. I mean, it don't have to be great. Just make sure it's up to par with that journey that you've already built. That's just the main thing. But that's just in my opinion on what makes a good horror movie, at least a solid horror movie. If you go by that, I mean, you should be okay. And yeah, but now we'll go on to like my favorite horror movies, pretty much of all time. But it's just like a journey, not like a real like a list. I could probably like name off some movies that really impacted me growing up or just today. Of course, I've mentioned this movie several different times in this video, but Halloween 1978. I saw that movie whenever I was little. I really don't remember when I first saw it. I just know I was little, and Michael Myers was the only horror movie icon that ever gave me nightmares, honestly. I just knew back then that whenever I first watched that movie, it's like, I'm really going to like horror movies growing up. And that's what happened. And I was obsessed. I was obsessed with Michael Myers growing up. I still kind of am, but it's okay. But there's just something about Michael Myers that's very, very different from Freddy and Jason or Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. Even though the very first Friday the 13th didn't have Jason in it. But Jason's become like so embedded into the pop culture, really. And a lot of people don't like the very first Friday the 13th because it doesn't have Jason in it. But I'm sure the people that grew up around that time like the first Friday the 13th in it better than the sequels. But I guess it's just like a generation type thing. But there was just always something about Michael Myers that always interested me. He was just so mysterious. He always had a calm, collected type deal to him. He didn't walk. He didn't run. He didn't talk. Neither did Jason. But Michael wasn't really big and built and bulky like Jason was. Michael was more in the shadows and just he's there and then he's not there. And then he's there again, even closer, and then he just disappears and then he goes in for the kill. It's just that stalking that he does. He likes to make his victims go mad at first and then he goes in for the kill. And it's just, I could go on and on and on about Michael Myers, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. The Strangers, back in 2008, I believe it came out. The Strangers honestly scared the absolute shit out of me growing up because, like, before The Conjuring, The Strangers was honestly the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. Even though I respect Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time, but The Strangers at that time was the scariest movie I've ever seen. Yeah, I was a little bit older, but I was still rather little, and it was just, the thing about The Strangers is everything is so isolated and it's so personal, and and it's just that stalking and that slow burn, really slow burn again, about that movie. It just makes it so freaking scary. And it's a home invasion film. And honestly, it's probably one of the best home invasion horror movies out there. And of course, I like the sequel, but the sequel really didn't live up to the first one. But The Strangers, my goodness. And especially that end scene whenever those two little boys walked into the house and saw the carnage in that house. and one of them went to check Liv Tyler's character, and she just pops up and screams. I remember that face of her screaming pretty much scarred me for a while there whenever I was little. And The Strangers was honestly a masterpiece at that time. It still holds up pretty well. And the sequel, like I said, it was good, but not like the first one. But The Conjuring, like I mentioned, Conjuring was very good. That's honestly now, it still holds as the scariest movie I've ever seen. That legit scared the shit out of me. And I think that came out 2014, I think that I was in my junior year of high school at that time. And of course, I remember whenever I first watched it, I was like, oh, this ain't gonna scare me. I mean, not that bad at least. And then I remember I slept with the light on that night, and I never do that. Well, I slept with the closet light on, but still, I never do that. And I still kind of have trouble to this day watching it alone. Because I watched it not too long ago after I got off work, but by myself in the dark. But I still kind of struggled to get through that because it still has that lingering effect on me. And it's just, again, that slow burn. And it's just the way that James Wan captured everything. And plus the cinematography in that movie is just great. I mean, it still looks a little bit polished, but I mean, what can I say about that? That's honestly in my top 5 horror movies of all time whenever I do make a list. What else? Signs. M. Night Shyamalan's Signs with Mel Gibson and what's his name? Joaquin Phoenix. I remember, I haven't watched that movie in a long time. I need to rewatch it again, but that was honestly a really, really good scary movie. I'm sure it's more of a thriller than a scary movie, but it scared me whenever I was little. And it's just, it takes the idea of an alien invasion and it just focuses it on one family. And that's the thing that's genius about that. And it deals with the building emotions on the idea of a full-blown alien invasion with that family. Like how the fear just keeps rising and rising and rising. Again, slow burn. And the payoff in that movie was really good as well. And George, swing away. But yeah, Signs is a good movie. What else? You all might hate me for this, but I've never seen The Exorcist yet. I do plan on watching it, and I will do a review for that. Excuse me. But what else? Oh man, I'm going blank here. A Quiet Place. I watched that not too long ago for the first time. A Quiet Place was damn good. It was honestly probably my number 2 movie of 2018, or number 2 or number 3. Avengers Infinity War was number 1 for 2018, and then Halloween 2018. So it'll probably be number 3. But A Quiet Place was amazing. It's the way they hardly used dialogue in that movie, and it was pretty much mostly silent, other than the score of the movie and the soundtrack. But it's just the way that they used silence as a character. The silence was pretty much a character in that movie. It was so well done. So well done. I need to rewatch that again and do a review on that as well. But what else? I watched Hereditary as well not too long ago. I honestly thought it was overhyped. It was alright, but then again, the payoff really wasn't that well done for me. There were moments in that movie that was legit bone chilling, but I thought it had really, really good moments, and it just failed to deliver on those moments for me. But yeah, I need to rewatch it again and see if my thoughts changed on that or not. But it's an alright movie. But honestly, I do like the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets, but I never really watched the whole series. It's been forever since I watched any of those movies. I know I was little, but I never really got into them like I did with Halloween, because Halloween just drew me in. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of low points in the Halloween franchise, but just overall, there's just something about it that I love personally. But let's see what else. There's man, I'm going blank now. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I'll probably just name a few more here just for time purposes. But Exorcism of Emily Rose, been a while since I've seen that, but I really loved that movie growing up. Scared me quite a bit. Honestly, what really scared me growing up was the visuals. The story was pretty good. I honestly enjoyed the story, but mostly the visuals in that movie, and not really a lot of special effects, but just some on the way they dealt with Jennifer Carpenter's character, Emily Rose, was just freaking terrifying. Honestly, shit. It's just really terrifying, bone chilling, gives me goosebumps, like not the good kind, really. And I do remember there's a court scene in that movie, and it shows like a picture of her after she died, and how she was all like tensed up, and her face, and that's disturbing. Really, it is. And I was just like, oh my god, oh. But yeah, Exorcism of Emily Rose is a really good movie. It's a really good paranormal movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching that. I think it came out like 2005, I think 2005 or 6. I'm not really for sure, but I'll try to name off one more. The very first Saw movie. I liked the very first Saw movie. James Wan did that, actually. I think I mentioned that earlier. But the very first Saw movie was pretty much a masterpiece. And the sequel to that was alright, but anything after that was... Let's not talk about that. But Saw, that came out in 2004, the cinematography in it is just outstanding. And the way... Yeah, there's blood, guts, and gore in that movie, but it was just the way it was smart. Saw was very, very smart. And that twist at the end, game over, and shuts the door. It's just like, what? What happened here? Let's think about this. What happened here? I don't fucking know. The Saw it's all about twists and turns. Pretty much the whole franchise really was about twists and turns. But that movie was just honestly a masterpiece for that time, and it still holds up very well to this day. But yeah, those are pretty much my favorites, if you will. I know there's a lot more out there. I just really can't think of them on top of my head. I would really have to sit down and make a list, really. But I just wanted to get out there what I thought would be, what I thought would make a good horror movie, and just some of my favorites, just spitballing here. And I had to get off my chest my thoughts on the 3 from Hell trailer. Sorry for my ranting about that, but I had to get it out there. But anyways, stay tuned this week, because I'm definitely going to do a Game of Thrones seasons 1 and 2 review. I'm on season 3 right now, but I'll definitely do 1 and 2 review. And I will do my top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. I know I've been delaying that, because I've been wanting to do it with my mother, and she backed out. She ain't cool. And she's probably going to watch this, and I'm probably going to hear about it. But it's okay. It's all right. But I'll definitely be doing those videos, and I'll be thinking of more videos to do. And I'll definitely also be try to like check out some new movies and might do a review if it's worthy or not. But yeah, that's what's coming up pretty much in the upcoming week and weeks to come. I do have some pretty special things on the horizon that I'm working on, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, give this video a like, and be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you'll be notified whenever I do post a video. And I honestly cannot thank you all enough for the support and the likes and the subscriptions that y'all have done. We're at 39. Let's get to 40. If we can get to 40, we'll be doing good. But I want to set a goal. If we can get to 50 subscribers, honestly thinking about doing a live stream. I'll probably do a live stream of some sorts. I don't know about what yet, but if we can get to 50 subscribers, and I'll probably end up doing a poll of what we can talk about in that live stream. But let's get to 50 subscribers. That would really, really mean a lot to me, honestly. And share this video, share my channel if you'd be so kind to. I really appreciate it. But yeah, those are just my thoughts, and thank you all again for checking out this video. And in the meantime, I'll see you all later. Bye.